Yes, so just picked up an SD card, new SD card. I'm about to head off on a bit of an Astro landscape photography expedition, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to do a rundown of all the gear that I use, getting in amongst the weeds really, because I'm even going to go as far as starting with the vehicle, because for landscape astrophotography, a vehicle is kind of essential for a number of reasons. You're traveling to remote locations and you need to carry a fair amount of gear, and you also want a comfortable base, and particularly in my case, I want a vehicle I can sleep in, because once you get to my age, the last thing you want to be doing is rolling out a swag and sleeping on the ground. And being able to come back from a shoot at 4 a.m. in the morning and just being able to climb in the back of the car into a comfy bed, nice and secure in your vehicle, it really is the ideal way to go. Plus you leave a minimal impact on the landscape that you're in, and you can park up just about anywhere without, camping as such. So, the vehicle I've chosen, and it might seem ostentatious to talk about a vehicle as being specifically useful for landscape astrophotography, but my day job is a photographer as well, so it does cater to both things. In my case, I chose a Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid, affectionately known as a PHEV, which is the latest generation, a lot of improvements over previous generations. The reasons I chose this vehicle, because I did quite a lot of research. I did not want a large four-wheel drive. Perth, or Western Australia, or Australia in general, has more than enough lifted four-wheel drives on its highways and roads, and I didn't really want to add to that. I also don't need to do any extreme off-roading. So, for any average person, 99.9% of your driving is on bitumen. So you don't want a vehicle that compromises that ability and that efficiency just for ultimate off-road ability. This car has, for my needs, adequate off-road capabilities. I'd consider it far more effective than, say, its equivalent in the Subaru range, say an Outlander, or not Outlander, Outback or Forester, simply because of the electric drivetrain. This car drives like an electric vehicle. So you've got a motor front and rear, both equally powerful, and it's full-time four-wheel drive. So when you're in an off-road situation, and most of the off-road in Western Australia is going to be sandy tracks or a beach, we're not talking rugged, we're not doing powerline trails or rock climbing or anything like that. So for what I need, it's more than adequate. It handles sand really well, and you've got all that low down power and torque when you need it without having to stress your gearbox or your clutch or any of the usual issues you have with small SUVs in off-road situations. It also is very quiet, it's very quick, it's just really smooth and pleasant to drive. It's just a lovely vehicle. The other great thing about it is that I've got 240 volt AC power on board. I've got two standard 240 volt sockets inside the car, so no adapters or anything required. So I run mainly, apart from my fridge, my 12 volt fridge, I run just about everything, all my camping type appliances on 240 volts. If anyone's used those Travel Buddy ovens, the 12 volt ovens that the four-wheel drive fraternity seem to love, nearly 2 hours to heat up a pie. It is a bit ridiculous. When you've got 240 volt power, you've literally got 10 times the amount of power to do your cooking with. So I use a infrared hot plate to do my cooking, and a sandwich toaster, and I've got a coffee maker. All the sort of mod cons and little luxuries, because even when I'm roughing it, I don't want to be uncomfortable and I don't want to go without. It's also great for charging all your batteries, laptops, drones, any equipment you might have. It is just a very effective way to get things done. So that's pretty much the big pros of the vehicle. Now, the next thing about this trip is I'm going to a salt lake that I've been to fairly frequently. And even though there's limited areas of the lake that are photogenic, the way the lake changes through the seasons and through the years is what makes it such a repeatable visit. It's a place you can return to again and again and again, and you're going to get something different. So what I'm going to do at the end of this video is not just have photos from this particular shoot, but I'm going to put up photos of previous visits that that I've done with different water levels and different levels of salt and clarity of salt, just so you can appreciate the difference and just the constant change that you get with the salt lake as a landscape, particularly an Astro landscape location. They aren't always particularly photogenic during daylight hours, but at night they just really come to life visually. So I hope that comes across. So I'll talk to you a little bit later when we get into the other gear that I take. And it looks like we've got the place to ourselves. Weather conditions today are bloody awful. We're looking at, what time is it? It is 5:45 and we are at 40 degrees Celsius. So, yeah, it's going to be a warm one. So we're driving down here because there's a nice place to set up for the night rather than in the actual main car park. I don't do the bogan thing and start doing donuts and trying to tear the place up. I'm driving an existing tyre track, so someone's already done all this. But I just drive up to the end here. It's close to where I shoot and it's out of the way, so if people are coming into the car park at night to camp out, you know, it's a rest stop, so a lot of people with caravans and stuff come in there. I don't have to worry about them. And that is us. Right. I promised myself last time I attempted this to try it with the actual wireless microphone, see if that's better for the wind situation, unless it's just rubbing on my chest at the moment. We'll find out anyway. Let's see what the levels are doing. Yeah, there's a bit of wind noise. We'll see how we go. So here we are. What I'm hoping for is that there's still a small amount of water in the lake. There may be or maybe not. It's hard to tell. I'm going to have to walk out a little bit, but yeah, I'll pan the camera around. As you can see, people come down here, do their donuts, cut the place up, and it's a real shame. It's such a pretty and photogenic spot without all this crap here. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the problem with these sorts of places when they're fairly close to a town. Bored people. Anyhows, we're pretty much midweek now, so we're unlikely to have anyone coming out. We've got some nice pressure ridges that I might be able to get something with tonight. I don't know. I'm just being careful to walk where it's already been kind of trashed, and trying to keep all of this stuff as pristine as I can in case I want to use it. But unfortunately you get clowns doing this kind of crap. Like, why? All you're doing is getting salt all over your car and there's nowhere to go. It's just, yeah, sorry, it's just my bugbear of mine. So, these trees quite often, well, at different times of the year, these trees are in the water. So you can get some lovely reflections with those. But, you know, they're your obligatory Salt Lake dead trees, which always make great subjects for astrophotography. but I've photographed them so many times from a lot of different angles, I don't know how much more I can do with them. So the game plan is I'm going to head out to the middle of the lake. You can hear the salt under my feet there. That's the surface. So we're going to head out to see if there's any water and any possibility of reflections. We'll find out. Yeah, unfortunately in the few days since I was last here, it's pretty much dried out. But we do have kind of a sheen, so it could be interesting. It'll be something different. Otherwise, I'll just work on some of my more unusual compositions that I do when there's not much else going on. We've got a moon set. It's only a small crescent moon. A moon set 10, 11 o'clock. So we'll see if that gives us anything interesting here as well. So I'll go back and go over some gear in the meantime. So that's what we have right now. At the moment, the lake is probably at its least interesting. So it's sort of why I'm going to be trying to film the process tonight, because I won't be so focused on trying to grab a whole heap of different compositions, which is what I normally do. I try and grab as many compositions as I can in the evening, as we're going to have the Milky Way core coming up over here, and that won't be rising until the wee hours of the morning. So we'll just make do with the summer Milky Way arch in the meantime. Maybe I probably will do a panorama just to show the setup of the Polaris and run that through its paces. I mean, why not? Like I say, it's not the best time of the year, and it's not in its best state for appeal, but I was determined to get a video done, so that's why we're here. Alright, we'll start at the front part of the car and move back. So in here I have my fridge, which I keep up at the front of the car because I can reach in and get my drinks, coffee chills, that kind of thing. I can get them out while I'm driving. Down under here, it's my water, so there's 20 litres, food grade hose going to a tap, which I'll show in a minute. That's my compressor, which can run on 240 volts, which is what I use. That way I don't have to run any high amperage 12 volt cables anywhere. And basically a little tray, a bit of cardboard that's just really handy to put shopping and just stack stuff. Oh, it's just a little flat spot in the car. Okay. In here is the aforementioned tap, which, because I've got this on a fridge slide, can actually come out so the water isn't running into the car. And for bringing out the coffee station and everything, makes it a bit easier to use. I don't use it as a fridge slide, but it's very handy just as a main slide. Just a basic off-the-shelf drawer with a stainless steel table that clips on the end when I take that Velcro section off, and I've just slammed it into this again. I keep doing that. So in here I have a 12 volt heated coffee mug, which I got cheap from a second-hand store, of course. Sandwich toaster, 240 volt power means you can go with the luxuries like a sandwich toaster, and it is the quickest and easiest thing to make snacks when you're camping overnight or a couple of days. Coffee maker to complement that. This is an old Lavazza, and the main reason I got that, it's a pod system, but I can actually refill one of the pods and use my own coffee in it. Not that I do that very often, and just use their pods, which aren't easy to come by, but you can order them. It's not the best coffee in the world, but the reason I chose this one is because it has a steam wand, which very few pod machines do, and that makes it very easy to steam my milk, because that's how I have my coffee. Under here, in a drawer that I picked up from the rubbish tip recycling centre that someone had made themselves, is a very low profile drawer, which is really handy because it means that I have enough, it's not so high that I can't actually have a reasonably comfortable bed on top. This is a very bizarre thing called a Gesund plate, which is basically just an infrared burner like you get in some of your cheap electric stoves with the infrared elements underneath the glass. But this is specially designed to be cooked on directly. So don't need to use fry pans or any of that. You just do everything. You make toast on it, eggs, bacon, whatever you want. It's actually really much more effective than I thought it would be. So effective, I swapped out the induction cooker for this because it just saves bringing other utensils along. And to clean it off, you basically, while it's still hot, throw some water on it. It's shockproof, and everything basically just wipes right off. It's really good. Again, the advantages of having 240 volt power. Right. I will put the table back in here and we'll go through some of the camera equipment. Nearly forgot to cover this side of the car. Obviously we have our bed, which is nice and comfortable, and down here, if we can see it, I have a lithium battery pack to supplement what I've got from the car, because I need to run my fridge from an auxiliary. That also has AC inverter built into it, so that can run appliances when I don't want to have the car in ready mode, when I'm being a bit more stealthy or not wanting to disturb other people with lights coming on. So that's quite useful. It can also be charged with solar. I changed my mind. I'll do it down here because it's a bit more out of the wind. So in this bag here, which again, something I got second hand, it's an old army radio bag. So it's all canvas and rugged with plastic zips so they don't corrode, and it's padded, obviously to protect the radio equipment, and you've got various pockets and so forth in it for, that was where the aerial was, and obviously bits and pieces, batteries and so forth. So in here I've got my Benro Polaris. That's my tape is coming off. And a big power pack too, actually, because if there's any advice I'm going to give anyone who's using a Benro Polaris, always run it with an external battery pack. Run it with one that's capable of the quick charge and capable of at least 20, 30, 40 watts. And you will minimise, won't say eliminate, minimise a lot of the problems people have with the Benros with turning them on, cold weather, that kind of thing. The only time I've ever had a problem turning on my Benro was when I was trying to run it without a battery pack on a cold night, and plugged in a battery pack, problem solved. So that keeps all of my Benro stuff together, the Polaris stuff together in that bag, and keeps it nice and safe. So this is forever the photographer's position and dilemma, is what to bring and what to leave behind, and usually you want to bring everything, which means that the car tends to get loaded to the gills. So because you don't want to get to a location and find that you had a use for your 1.8 thingy watts at polymorphic variable focus, whatever, specific lens, that you found something that it would be perfect for finally. So I try and bring as much as I can. This is my day kit for work anyway, for the most part. The only thing that I leave out when I come out in the field for this kind of photography is I leave the flashes at home so I can put more lenses in. I got to remember to put my flashes back in when I do my day job. So Sony A7R4, but currently this one we've got a Samyang 24 1.8. That's what I'll be using for the panorama. I find that's a good focal length for the panoramas. My big boy Astro lens is on my A7R5, which I'm going to be doing some video and do the single shots, non-panorama shots tonight. And that's fitted with the big boy Sigma 14mm 1.4. Haven't really had a chance to put it through its paces yet, but a lot of things that are attractive about it. The rotating collar in particular. For when you're doing Astro at night, the last thing you want to be doing is changing your cameras over from landscape to portrait and all that kind of nonsense, and it balances the camera so much better. So that's for that. Yet another battery pack, 70 to 200. Probably won't use it tonight. Yeah, when we're talking about crazy lenses, yeah, a Canon fit on Metabones lens baby for wacky shots. And my Tamron 28 to 75 2.8, which is a cracking little lens for the money, and pretty much my daily workhorse. Fits well on these bodies, unlike the 14mm Sigma. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to set up the Benro Polaris for some quick and simple Milky Way panoramas. So this is just the basic setup, getting the camera attached, get everything connected while we got good light. So I'll turn things around so we can see what we're doing. So, as I've mentioned before, first thing to do is get yourself a good power pack. This sort of helps as a weight to keep the tripod steady as well. But it's a game changer if you want reliability with your Polaris. Now, another tip I would highly recommend is getting yourself a nice long USB-C lead with a 90-degree, as small a profile as you can manage, to go into your Polaris, because when you start getting towards the limits of your tilt, USB cord coming out this way quite often snags, and I've actually broken a USB off, so watch that. Okay, I'm using my Sony A7R4, which I have on one of those rotating mounts. Works really well with the Polaris, and it means that once you've attached it, you don't have to take your camera off to change your orientation. And when you're in the dark, in the middle of a salt lake, taking your camera off and reattaching it to a tripod can be a very perilous experience. Ask me how I know. Right, so we are in. Now, the other advantage of one of these rotating brackets is that it means all your ports are behind the Polaris, so you don't have a situation where they're fouling. And also the axis around which it's rotating, be it portrait or landscape, isn't affected too much. When you've got it on an L bracket, your axis comes out here and you get a parallax error when you're doing your panoramas, and it can make stitching, particularly close foreground objects, pretty challenging or sometimes impossible. Okay, so that should be everything. Polaris is taking power from the battery pack, so we're all good there. We do our double press, and that's how I do it. 1, 2 and hold. One quick press, second press straight away, and hold the second press. I've never had it fail. Like I said, the only time I've had it fail was on the occasion where I didn't have it plugged into an external battery pack. All right, now, moment of truth. Found it. And we are basically good to go, as you can see. So everything is working perfectly, everything is connected. Let's just get our camera on a less awkward angle. Okay, you notice I'm not using the Astro, the extra Astro head for the other extra axis, and that's because, as a rule, I don't track Milky Way panoramas. Couple of reasons. Blending it with the foreground, particularly when you've got a lot of elements protruding from the foreground into the sky, like I normally do, probably not tonight, but I normally do, is a hassle, and you get your blurring and your fringing around the edges, and it just ends up looking fake. I'm not trying to draw the maximum amount of detail and clarity out of the Milky Way as is physically possible. Again, just my personal taste, I feel it can look a little unreal, and I just try to get naturalistic images. I want them to match the foreground perfectly, because that's what I'm capturing, that foreground with that sky at that time in that place. So no sky replacements, no moving to a different location and getting the sky there and then putting that on that foreground. It's not something, it's not that I have a particular problem with it, it's just that it doesn't give me the satisfaction of creating an image that is special to me. I enjoy that what I'm seeing on the camera and seeing with my eyes are pretty much the same thing, just with the extra detail brought out by the camera and the post-processing, to share the experience of what it was like to be under that sky, in that place, in that time. Because that to me is the magic of this kind of photography, not the technicalities, not the technical perfection of an image, but the honesty of that image and capturing the experience that I'm feeling being out here. Because this is the thing that gives me the rush, that makes me stay up till 4 in the morning, is being under these skies and trying to capture some of what that awesome experience is like in an image. And I feel if you fiddle around with it too much, it's not really that anymore. And in this day and age of AI generated art and fake imagery and artificial replacement skies and everything, I think the more honesty that we've got in an image, the more integrity we can have as a photographer and put a value to our art. Otherwise, why are we out here at 4 a.m. in the morning to capture that image if that isn't the image that we captured at 4 a.m. in the morning? Don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I feel about it. So it's still too young in the evening, but we've got everything working, so I'll shut everything down for the time being. We know that everything's ship shape and Bristol fashion, so it'll be ready to go once we get started. Here's a couple of little tips re-lighting when you're out camping or vehicle, late night astro landscape photography. One of them, this is a light from Aldi, which is a sensor light, which I've installed a bracket or just double-sided tape for it to slip in here in the back of the car where it lives, but it can also magnetically attach to your vehicle, which with the sensor light it means that when I leave the car and I'm out over the lake somewhere, and if someone approaches the vehicle, the light turns on. So it's kind of like a little bit of a security measure. Another great lighting, like a lot of, you see the kitted out four-wheel drive trucks, and they've got their lighting circuits and all their switchboard, and they got their lights on the side and their light out the back, and they're giant bright things that just destroy the ambience of everywhere, and they're mounted to the vehicle. I find these little camp lights to be particularly useful. I'll bring it over so you can see it in the light here. This one has little elastic straps, so you can loop it around tent poles and things like that, but it means it fits perfectly on a tripod. So you've got a little light that you can attach to your tripods quite easily. They're also magnetic, so you can stick them to any part of your vehicle and put them wherever you want around your camp. And you've got different modes. It'll go off first. So you've got bright, dimmer, and then you've got your supposedly less insect attracting orange light. Still attracts bugs though. But it's better than nothing. And it's a much nicer light on your eyes when you're under a dark sky and trying to preserve your night vision to some degree. So just a few ideas there. So we've got Polaris set up and running. We've got our focus sorted, our exposures sorted, and this is the point, and this is what I love about this particular device, is this is the point. I can actually sit back, stand back, and enjoy just being out here. I'm now in the experience. I'm not having to focus on the, sorry, I'm just covering the light so it doesn't spoil anything or go flare in the lens, but I can actually just experience being out here during these captures. And to me, that's what this is all about. It's an incredible experience to be here in the dark, because by necessity, doing astrophotography, all the lights have got to be out. And so you're just here with your night vision under this awesome sky. And in a place like this in particular, like on a salt lake, which is this almost perfectly reflective surface, in that even when it's not like a mirror, it is giving you the same luminosity as the night sky. So the sky meets the earth in this particular place, and you're standing in the middle of it, and it's, I guess the closest thing I could imagine is like a sensory deprivation tank, because out here there's no sound apart from the breeze, your own voice, the sound of your equipment. And all you're surrounded by is the universe. You've got the Milky Way up there, and you've got this salt lake down here, reflecting that light back up, and you're right here in the middle of it. And it really is an awe-inspiring experience. It is such a soothing place to be. And I can only speak for myself, but I imagine this is what attracts or keeps people coming back to this kind of astrophotography. For me, it's not about the technique, and that's why I love this device in particular, because once I've got my composition and my image planned out in my mind and all the settings sorted out, it's doing the fiddly bits that, I don't know, that make the process a bit of a drag. And this means, like, on different occasions where I'm not limited by the situation and I've got a lot more compositions that I can do, I can set this up, and once I've got my start and end point basically encompassing the entire Milky Way, I can move my camera around, keeping the orientation of the Milky Way when I set it up again, and put it in different locations and different compositions and not have to reset everything. So I can just get so many shots in a night when I'm in a situation where that sort of thing is possible, when it's a little bit more interesting than it is tonight, when you've got water and other things happening. So it's a beautiful experience at the best of times, but when you've got something that takes some of the drudgery out of it, it's a liberating experience as well. I know I'm sounding a bit crazy. It is 2:20 in the morning, so that's to be expected. But I don't know, I'm so wide awake now because, yeah, I've got all this in front of me. And it is a very special life-affirming experience. Okay, I've made a liar of myself because I've decided to actually indulge in a few more compositions. I can't help myself. Despite the environmental damage by the bush bogans, we still have some areas where we've got some interesting salt ridges amongst the good old traditional dead trees. So there's more fun to be had tonight. So I'm going to set up for this and do some more. Oh, and another bit of potential advice is GPS watches are really handy when you're wandering around in the dark, particularly in a relatively featureless location, because I'm filming and I'm by myself. I have to leave one tripod behind with a camera and a lot of expensive gear in one section, and then move one to another spot in the dark, go back for the other one. So when you can actually retrace your steps via GPS on something on your wrist, it's definitely worth it. So there's another tip for nighttime shooting. Also, when you found a really good spot to set up, if you're like recceing a location during the day, and you can come back to it in the evening, because things look very different at night than they do during the day. So a couple of little tips. So despite planning on only doing one shot tonight, I keep moving on. And yeah, who can blame me? Because yeah, why would you stop when you can keep going? The Milky Way core has come up and looking magnificent, and yeah, it's actually a beautiful night, so we're just going to keep at it.